Yo, welcome to the show. I am Gunnar Olson, here as always with Thrifty Traveler executive editor Kyle Potter. And Kyle, when we decided to start a podcast and started dreaming of some potential guests, I wrote one name down at the very top of my wish list. That man is the founder of the Weatherline app, an alum of a little up and coming company called Apple, an Eagle Scout, but most importantly, the creator of the single best app in my phone. It's Flighty founder and CEO Ryan Jones. Ryan, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Man, what an intro. Thanks. I'm doing great now. I got it all fluffed up.
You don't talk enough about how you're an Eagle Scout.
I also did the three, oh man, now I can't remember what they are. The three gold palms afterwards. I was like extra Eagle Scout. I stayed on and kept going.
Oh man, that's the full thing there. Okay, well I guess we're going to talk about your road and kind of how you got to Flighty. But for those who aren't familiar with the app Flighty, it's time to get familiar. I'm going to try not to fanboy too hard, but this is my favorite travel app, period.
Yeah, we're gonna come across as fanboys, and we just need to accept that. So Ryan, first, Gunnar's gonna subject you to his fanboyishness explanation of your app, and then you're gonna probably come in and do some cleanup.
Based on his intro of me, it's going to be better than what I would do. So let's hear it. What do you got?
Okay, so the Flighty app is a flight tracking app that synthesizes all the information about your upcoming, current, or past flights. With Flighty Pro, you get instant push alerts alerting you to check-in times, potential delays, actual airline delays, ground delays, aircraft changes, weather problems, and so much more. Plus, the app is beautiful. It's the most satisfying app in my phone. It shows me all of my flights, past or future, on a map. You know I love maps. I've talked about this on the show. And gives me a little countdown to travel too, which I also really, really love. You can see minute details like expected taxi time or how likely your flight is to be early on time or delayed. It gives you alternative flight options when you get into a pinch. You can also sync Flighty with your TripIt, which is what I do, to collect all of your info. So you can get all of your Flighty info for years back if you have TripIt. Also, you can use Flighty with Friends Flights, which is a separate feature that gives you alerts when your friends and family are flying, which is the best invention ever for airport picker-uppers like myself. If you can't already tell, I'm a Flighty disciple, a lifetime subscriber of several years now. It's the best app on my phone, bar none. A free trial of Flighty Pro is free for your first flight. You can also get a week of Pro for $5, a month of Pro for $9, or an annual subscription for $60. Family subscriptions are $119 a year, and my awesome lifetime rate was $299. The app itself is free to download. Okay, Ryan, I'm going to catch my breath while you explain how. How do you guys pull all this information in?
And if you're not watching on YouTube, Ryan is clapping for Gunnar's explanation.
Very good. Well done, sir. We're hired. I think the only thing you forgot, which I have to give you a hard time about, is Flighty 4, which was last year, and we added a ton of what we call delay intelligence. So we'll do our own delay predictions. So it's not just forwarding through what the airlines and everyone are saying. Like if your plane's not going to make it in time from whatever, Chicago, we'll say, hey, it's going to be 40 minutes late. Doesn't matter what the airline's telling you. The plane can't be here. And we do that also with ground delays and stuff. So we can tell you around 60% of the time in the US why exactly your plane is delayed, which is a question that everybody, every nerd is like, why? Every normal person. So it's a huge feature. But yeah, you covered it. You nailed it. To answer your actual question, how do we do it? When we started, we started 6 years ago, and it started around my own frustrations and why isn't there, it was basically two things: a great looking flight tracking app that did all the where's my plane stuff automatically. Like 6 years ago, that was apps were just now starting to do the button, everyone had a big button that said, where's my plane? You tap it. And I got frustrated that basically I would just sit there before my flight tapping, where's my plane? And then I would wait 30 minutes and be like, where's my plane? And wait 30 minutes. And I was like, someone should just tell me when there's something wrong. I don't care about any of this other stuff. So that was kind of one of the initial things was we'll just do all the where's my plane stuff for you. You can come look if you want. You can see whatever, it's 4 stops prior and it's in Panama City. But if something actually goes wrong, then we'll just send you a push alert. So you don't have to do this constant where's my plane stuff. That was kind of where it started. Since then, we've gotten bigger. Growth has been I've just been thankful for how well it's grown. I didn't really think it could get this big. Happy to know that other people care about this stuff and well-designed apps as much as we do. And at this point, we basically pull in every data source we can find. So it's FAA, Eurocontrol, some of the middleware companies that everyone's aware of, like FlightAware is a great partner. We've started getting into like private connections to individual airports and individual airlines. So we've kind of gone, as of last year, to we'll just take everything you've got and it's actually very hard to distinguish like what's accurate and what's not. As a user sitting on the plane, you're like, sometimes when you get a report that something's wrong, you say, this is dumb. I just pushed back 4 minutes ago. How come you guys don't know this? And you can look at one service and say it's correct and look at the other one and say it's wrong. But when you guys are like sitting in your studio right now, like you don't have any idea what's happening with American Airlines number one. We don't know which one's the truth. So figuring out which one of the data sources is telling the truth is actually a big part of the secret sauce now.
I think maybe where Flighty cuts through is that there's always a disconnect between what airlines can tell you and what they will tell you, and how soon you can get that information. How? So again, I just have to repeat, how can Flighty tell me that my flight is going to be delayed 30 to 45 minutes before I get that kind of a notification from Delta or American or Southwest?
Yeah. It's one of those things where there's 10 small reasons that add up to a big difference. But the two main ones are, well, let's just say, when you think about an airline, do you think about amazing website, really fast service, really clear statuses of what's going on, great programmers, great design? No, like they're good at optimizing routes, keeping costs down, hedging fuel costs. Like they're good at the stuff that moves their big bottom line.
You forgot selling credit cards.
That's actually 100%. Collecting interest, you're right. That is entirely the business now. Yeah. Running airplanes with the side business of credit card interest. And the second reason is they don't really have an incentive to tell you. If you think about what does an airline want, they want Gunnar and Kyle sitting at gate one, silent, an hour before the flight. They don't want you asking, where's the plane? Why is it late? Is it going to be on time? Can I go to the bathroom? Can I go get, like, they don't really have a great reason to let you know, oh, like the plane might be a little bit late, because then you're just asking more and more questions. Or we might switch to this plane, or there's actually a ground stop in JFK where it's coming from, and we might get out on time, we might not. Like there's not really a reason for them to tell you that. They're just going to generate a huge line in front of the gate agent asking more and more questions. So that it's kind of, there's a little bit of an incentive to not tell you everything as fast as possible. There's also, they have a little bit of an incentive to kind of wait until things are 100% certain, because they don't want to say something and then have to go back on it. That's the two real reasons. Is this is not their core thing that they do, and they don't really want to do it well. It's better for them if they kind of tell you at the last minute.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Where the airlines don't want to tell you that information, Flighty is giving you all of the information you could possibly want, including, like you mentioned, why the delay is happening, which, while some people say, maybe it's better to bury your head in the sand and not understand why, I do want to know why. And I also want to know, like, if I'm going to be delayed 20 minutes and I'm sitting on the plane, I'd like to at least understand, like, this delay is for a reason, or just, for my own mental headspace. Like, I don't want to just be sitting there wondering if we'll ever go. Like, at least Flighty is telling me, like, all right, you have 25 more minutes, or, worse. If it's worse, at least I know, so that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that is actually one thing I've been really surprised about. I thought originally when we started that more people would say, basically, shut up and just tell me what's the truth. And I'm a nerd, and I was like, but I want to know why, because it gives you a kind of a sense of, oh, the ground stop is done and my plane's already in the air. So like, this is it. I just have to get to the plane getting here and then we'll be fine. Versus like, there's a storm and we don't really know. But if there's a flight next door that the plane's already here because it came in overnight, you can go get on that one. It'll be fine. So like, I was actually am still pleasantly surprised at how many people are really interested in the details. And it's one of the things that takes a ton of time to design. And we have a really high regard for, we could easily list your plane is 30 minutes late and just list a bunch of stuff like there's no ground stops at either one of them. There's no ground stops at where your plane's coming from. Your plane is on time. The good weather's good where you are. We could list all the things, but we try to do, and we spend a lot of time making sure that we boil it down to like just the one thing. One of the, or if as few as possible, if there's multiple, one of the kind of main design ethos we have is that flight nerds like you and I should be able to dig into, get more information, but I also have to be able to hand it to my mom or dad or brother and sister, and it's clean enough and simple enough that they can just read the first line that says, your gate departure is in 45 minutes. It's delayed 30 minutes because the inbound plane is late from Orlando. And if you want to go deeper and see like, but why late from Orlando? Was it all planes from Orlando or just you can, but one of the things we hold kind of as a golden rule is you should be able to just read it and stop there and be like, all right, I get it. It's late from Orlando.
Exactly. It's like if you just want to know what time I'm landing, what gate I'm landing at, and your baggage claim, you don't have to scroll down any further than the very top part. But the beauty of it for me is just all the rest of the stuff. The further you scroll down, the crazier and more exciting it gets for me. So we're going to dig into all of it today on the show. We're talking to Ryan about all things Flighty, including some new and exciting updates that will come with the next Apple iOS launch and why this app is a must-have, like you said, for all flyers. All that and more. Welcome back to the Thrifty Traveler Podcast. All right, we're back. Let's jump into something hot and something cold where we look into the good and the bad news out there for travelers, and we'll start with something super hot. Okay, Ryan, we're going to talk about how and why you started Flighty in our Extra Mile segment a little later on. But right now, I want to look into the future because a new iOS update is coming to Apple product users sometime this month. In the past, Flighty has worked hand in hand with Apple on iOS launches and was on the forefront of the live activities bar and the lock screen widgets when those launched. What's next for Flighty in this new iOS launch?
Yeah, great question. This whole liquid glass thing has been interesting for us. It's very new. It's actually very difficult to work with. You can't, when you design it in design tools, it's almost impossible to know what it's going to look like because it's so fluid and real. You basically have to put it on these devices and just play with it and see what does it actually look like. The like dynamicism of it, if you will, is too high to even make like a Photoshop image, for lack of a better word. So it's been a challenge. We're really happy with what we've come up with. We launched, like you said, one of the original, I guess, to toot our own horn, it was basically the original live activity. And this year with the glass, we decided it was time to refresh it, take another close look at it. And we've come up with this, I think, really incredible design. It's very rich and way more refined and kind of fluid for just showing on your lock screen. And I'll give you guys an image so you can throw it up on the screen for everybody. But it's just got that refined, polished look that you expect from Flighty. It was basically 3 years into the live activity. We thought it was a great time to give that a refresh. One of the main characteristics of it is it's got this progress bar that actually shows when you're taxiing, when you're climbing, when you're cruising, when you're descending, and when you're taxiing again. So along with we'll have the words on there also, that's 12 minutes until you arrive at the gate, but you can also quickly visually glance and see exactly along the kind of flight path, if you will, where exactly you are in the status. And then it's got this really cool green or red glow coming off the whole thing based on if you're late or early. And that's one of the big pieces of the new launch for us.
Yeah, I think the live activities bar was already looked so good, and the new one definitely looks especially well designed and just kind of really pleasing, I guess, to the eye. I really like it so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think it begs the question, how long is it going to take U.S. and North American carriers to copy you this time?
It'll be interesting. This one will be a little bit harder for them. There's a lot of fancy stuff that's done in this one. You're right that the existing designs has seemed to be very influential for a lot of other airlines. Let's say certain airlines more than others. This one, good luck to them. Actually, another two other things that are cool is in the new Mac software, you can now get this in your menu bar. So if you're sitting at your Mac at home and the live activity is running on your phone, it'll put a little Flighty icon in your menu bar and you can just see it right there. And an extra cool one is it also works with CarPlay now. So you're driving to the airport to pick up Kyle. You don't have to download like a CarPlay app, or you don't have to start it or anything. If the live activity is running on your phone, it'll mirror down in the corner and you can see the little arc that shows Kyle's 42 minutes from landing, and it just shows up for you. It's actually a really cool feature. We're interested to see the adoption of it.
That's going to be really helpful for the next time you pick me up from the airport. So thanks in advance for that.
No, I'm gonna message you 3 minutes before you land, being like, "Hey, you probably got to pick up an Uber. I'm not gonna make it this time." No, that is an awesome feature, and I do use Flighty a lot to just do airport pickups, and so that friends flight tracking and then just having the kind of live activities on there on Apple CarPlay is I mean, especially for people who are driving. I mean, I live 10 minutes from the airport. If you're driving from an hour away to go scoop someone at the terminal and you can throw the live activities on there, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's a really beloved feature that is perfect for our use case. You know, there's not a lot of apps out there that have adopted live activities. People are most used to it with Uber Eats and Uber and DoorDash and stuff like that. And sports people are used to it with scores. But that's kind of it. But it's perfect for us because it just sits there, and instead of giving you an alert every 10 minutes of here's what's going on with your flight, which would be insane, you can just glance at it. Some of the other stuff that we have coming in this release we just put out for iOS 26 is, we've adopted the all new kind of rounded corners, glassy look within the app. So the main thing that you interact with in the app, that card, you'll see it's kind of inset, and we've adopted their design language for everything that sits on top of another layer has a glassy look. So when you're in flight, like we call it the HUD, that's the speed and the altitude, that's kind of glassy see-through. When you're looking in an individual flight, we have the like share button, find alternative flights, turn on live activities, turn off live activities, contact the airline. There's a lot of buttons in that long screen, and now they're all aggregated and they kind of hover down in the bottom left corner. So it's kind of like a quick action menu of anything you would want to do with that flight to manipulate it is just kind of sitting in the bottom left and bottom right corner is that cool new glassy element. And the last thing that we did with this update, which we've been working on for a while, is we really have spent the last 3 to 6 months, I would say, getting really serious about where are the data gaps that are just not where we want them to be, and how do we make those better. Calendar was not really data gap, but calendar import, we wanted that to be better. So we put in a whole new kind of AI powered system so the way the previous one worked was we looked at all the different calendar formats and we tried to say, okay, if it looks like Delta, read it like this, ingest the flight. If it looks like American, read it like this, ingest the flight. And crew are a lot of our users, pilots, flight attendants. And they have all kinds of insane formats. Like one little thing that you would never think of is their calendar events never say the airline because it's always the same airline for them. So all their calendar events say like flight 29, flight 63. And you're like, what? As a app, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So we have to do some smart things to figure out what airline are they even talking about. And then a lot of them do this other thing, which they put all their flights in one calendar event. So like the pilot will see, okay, I take off at 6 a.m. and I land at 9 p.m. And in there, I take 5 flights. So it'll just say flight after flight after flight after flight, which is crazy for a normal user. But we built all these templates to try to put that into Flighty for you. And the AI has empowered us to basically teach a little model like, hey, here's what a flight calendar event looks like. Go look at everybody's and try to see if there's a matching flight in our database. And it's really hard to nail down like how much better or how much more accurate this is because it's impossible to get false positives out of there. Basically, you'll get stuff like I don't know, like a doctor's appointment that says United Healthcare 23, and it's like, is that a flight that's United 23 or is that so you get some false positives in there, but we think that our accuracy, we think we reduced calendar events we can't read by about 4x. So basically say like if you submitted 100 and in the past we could read 90, now we can read 98. So the accuracy's gone up a ton on the calendar report. We're really satisfied with how that came out, and we're going to apply it soon to the email import because it's been so successful. And then with data, again, it's really hard to say, but I guess the best way to say it is every metric across the board, the new stuff we rolled out in this new update has gone up. So how often do we know the actual flight status? Accuracy has increased. Baggage and gates are big ones that went up a lot this time. We went out and worked with a lot of airlines and airports. So if you flew out of, let's say, Heathrow, and you're like, this never has the baggage at Heathrow, there was a good reason for that. We solved it, and now we always have baggage at Heathrow. So accuracy for all that stuff is up across the board. Of course, it varies by what airline and what airport you're flying to. So certain people will use the new update and say, oh my gosh, now this is amazing. It's incredible for XYZ airline or airport that used to not be awesome or one of the top tiers. And other people may not notice anything, but it did go up. All the main metrics went up across the board. And we're really happy with that because at the end of the day, it's accuracy and speed that matter. Like if you're not doing great on that, it doesn't matter how good it looks or how pretty and fast the live activities are. So lots of great stuff on this update. We're really satisfied with it.
Yeah, no, we're really excited to play around with it when it comes out. I know there's a lot in there that I'm sure people are going to be really excited about.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is it's going to be more beautiful, more trustworthy, and faster, which is like all you could really ever ask for, especially with an app, which again, going deep into fanboy territory here, it's hard to ask for a better travel app that can just put in powerful information right at your fingertips.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good amount of fanboy. I want to pivot now to something cold. One of the best and most useful features of the Flighty app and Flighty Pro is its ability to predict and warn of potential delays and cancellations. It's come in clutch for me so many times, not just like so I can rebook in the worst case scenario, but also just to give me a heads up, like I said. So I'm not just sitting frustrated at a gate or on the plane. I just want to know what's happening. But what this app does is it also collects all of your travel information, but your delay information, and tells you about all of your cumulative delays. It's what I'm calling a pain tracker. And I want us all to pull up our Flighty apps here and tell me, how many hours have you lost to airline delays this year, last year, all time? Tell me some of your delay stats. We'll start with you, Kyle.
I'm looking at my Flighty dashboard right now. I have lost 57 hours in my life as cataloged by Flighty to delays, including the worst, an 8-hour delay, at least 6 of which was actually sitting on the tarmac with American Airlines from Dallas back to Minneapolis on our way home from Colombia a couple of years ago. So thank you, Ryan, for that brutal reminder.
Ryan, what about you? What are some of your stats?
The question I always ask people, sitting on the tarmac is the worst. The only thing that makes it worse is, were you traveling with the family and were the kids on the plane with you?
No. So I guess thanks again.
Dodged a bullet there, man. It is so, man, we have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and timing, you're timing bottles and lunch and snacks and everything. And when you get stuck in an airplane for 6 hours on the tarmac, it is the challenge of all challenges as a human.
Oh, something I'm looking forward to.
So here's an interesting thing about mine. I don't know if I can tell you my actual numbers, because what I do, we'll get users. I'll look in customer support a couple times every day. We have someone who manages that fully, but I like to keep a finger on it. I'll look in there and someone will say, this flight's crap. Something's not right with it. And I'll be curious, so I'll add it. So my stats are crazy. I have multiple versions of the app too, because we have, internal versions and stuff. But just as an example, on my, the one that I think is technically correct and is mine, which is not, it says I have 215 hours of delays. And the longest one which is not my actual longest one because I'm tracking a ton of users' flights that are going insane. Someone somewhere had a 39-hour delay on AA 2774 from Austin to Philadelphia, which is
I can't believe that AA would have allowed that to process like that. I assume they would have just canceled it or rebook. I mean, that's insane. A third.
Do not underestimate the airline's willingness to play games with their operational reliability statistics. 39 hours, you're going on almost 2 full days. That's trying to avoid adding a cancellation to the DOT dashboard. That's all that is.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Mine 92 hours lifetime of delays. Yeah. The worst was 6 hours. I had like 4 or 5 flights tied at 6 hours, I think. Delta was responsible for 41 of my delay hours. This year, only 6. Last year was 14. And my cumulative total performance all time was 42 hours, 19 minutes late. That was a cool stat. I did not know until I was digging in. You can get the cumulative performance of all the flights you've taken in your lifetime. 42 hours, 19 minutes late.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, I guess.
Congrats on all the pain.
Yeah, we had some fun with these. It was fun to think about what you could do if you have all these stats.
Let's pivot to the extra mile topic where we dig a little deeper. And of course, with Ryan here, we're going to dig deeper on Flighty and kind of how this all came about. So you mentioned a little bit about the, where's my plane and just trying to make that a little better and more usable for people. But why a flight tracking app? What got you interested in this in general?
Yeah, I've kind of put the dots together in hindsight, if you will. You mentioned at the beginning that my previous app was Weatherline. I apparently just can't resist taking really messy data that the answer is out there. You just have to be a nerd to put it all together and putting it all together for people. It's kind of as simple as that. When I started flying, when I was whatever, let's just say 14, 15, I don't know, and it was able to look up stuff like, but where is the plane coming from? And how could we know this stuff? And finding that there's actually a lot of these answers out there, but just nobody was putting it together. And I'd been watching it for years and years. And it finally got to the point, I got stuck in, this is true, I got stuck in Fort Lauderdale Airport with my 88-year-old grandma for a 6-hour delay because I was driving up the keys and didn't want to look on my phone at the same time and say, where's the plane? Where's the plane? And I was just like, that's it. I'm done. I will go make this app. This is so dumb. I could have sat at the beach for an extra 5 hours, but now I'm in the Chili's with my 88-year-old grandma who I don't even want to be here, much less I'm sure she doesn't want to be here. And I literally tweeted, that's it. F this. I'll make it. Who wants to make it with me? And the team we have today is the 3 founding guys from that. And I had never met them before. I never talked to them before on Twitter. They totally understood the problem and it totally had the exact same, this should be solved. And we just instantly gelled over that. And here we are, which is insane to think about that's my story, but that is what happened.
Well, first of all, like there are worse places to be than Chili's. If you're enjoying a triple dipper before you fly home from Fort Lauderdale, there are worse places to be in life. So to your point, this really is all about data, and there is so much data out there. So I'm wondering how, if at all, first, can you quantify the volume of data that you're working with on an ongoing basis?
I don't even know. It's just enormous. I could have to take a guess. There's something like 40,000 flights in the US every day. And something like 100,000 flights in the world a day. And this is scheduled commercial flights. There's all kinds of other flights. And we haven't said this publicly, but recently we just passed that out of all the flights in the US, there's a Flighty user tracking that flight on 3 out of every 4 flights in the US. I never really thought we would get to that point. It's insane. That, I guess, gives you an idea. And there's something like over 100 updates per flight that we receive. Not push alerts that we push out. We do a better job of filtering it than that. But I guess if you multiplied all those numbers together, you can kind of get the idea that it's bonkers.
And, this goes beyond just the plane is here, the plane is there, the plane backed up from the gate, the plane arrived, the baggage claim has been assigned. You can get data, you clearly have data, for example, as just a very rudimentary one of where the plane is going to land, where its gate is, and based on operational performance in the past, how long it's going to take to taxi to your gate. Like, I'm amazed at how accurate taxi times are in those estimates in the app. So you have a lot of data already. I'm curious, what other data is out there that you want to use and give people more information about their flight?
That's a great question. Let me mention one thing I forgot to on a previous point is that one thing we used to get a lot more pushback on the price. We don't now. I don't know why. I don't know if it's consumers are more used to subscriptions at this point. A lot of our referrals come from word of mouth. So, you tell someone you have to get it. So I think that helps a little bit. One of the things we tell people when they say, like, how could it possibly be so much money, is that for every flight you enter into the app, we track around 7. So I'm tracking all the inbound planes to it, ones that are leaving the gate before it and after it. There's tail switches in there so that I'm then tracking that tail switch and the previous 4 or 5 for it. So that's one of the answers to how do we know so much and how do we stay on top of it so much, is because we're tracking a ton of them just to inform you about your one flight. And it, of course, balloons the data. What do we want to do further? It's a great question. One of the things we've been looking at for a long time is airports. So, today, I should ask you guys, but what do you do today if you hear that Minneapolis, or you're flying out of Minneapolis today, maybe there's like, oh no, there's possibly a thunderstorm, or oops, there's snow going on. It is, we all know to go to the kind of FAA, NAS, or OIS, whatever you want to call it, National Airspace System website, where they talk directly to the pilots for the ground stops and whatnot. But it is hard to parse. Like, you have to read, what do? They do average delay, which is an insane number. That's not the actual average delay. They do like minutes in trail, which nobody knows what that is, but people listening to this podcast, they do all kinds of stuff that is in capital letters and abbreviations. So one of the things that we want to do is decipher that and kind of bring the same flighty level of, we're deciphering what's going on with your plane. Let's decipher what's going on with the airport in terms of everything. NOTAMs, FAA, Eurocontrol, if that's applicable, METARs, TAFs, all that stuff, and tell you it's fine now. It's about to start raining. The FAA thinks it's going to be this amount of delay. It's going to stop at this amount of time, all that kind of stuff. That's a good, I'm actually curious, like, let's say there was a huge problem at whatever, Minneapolis or JFK. Like, how do you guys go about figuring out what the heck's going on?
Yeah, well, a lot of what you just mentioned. And I think even to me, the FAA dashboard with ground stops and ground delays and estimated average delays feels indecipherable, because it also always feels like it can change at a moment's notice. And so for as much information as Flighty puts at your fingertips, it does also feel like you're making very conscious decisions about what to share and how highly to place that information to guide people to making the right choice of when to leave for the airport versus how much longer to stay at home.
Yeah, I think for me, I just don't, I mean, I have access to all those same tools that you guys mentioned, but for me, I just, an incoming weather system is just kind of part of it. And I think a lot of people travel that same way. Like, they're just hoping and seeing, and, maybe mine will be the one that gets out, but a way to synthesize that information into a Flighty kind of way where it's just readable. It's right there on the page. Maybe you get an alert of some kind. I mean, that would be huge, because, how many people, like you said, it's all acronyms and capital letters, and it's written by seemingly inhuman humans. These kind of updates on the FAA website and whatnot. So that would be a great feature for sure.
My favorite other one, have you seen these delay indexes that some sites do, where it's like, oh, the delay index is 3.5 out of 5. And you're like, Okay, what the heck does that mean? So I would love to bring some clarity to that because I know why they're doing it. I get it. We've dug into the problem, but as a user, it's like, I don't, thank you. I don't know what that to do with that. That one drives me insane.
On that note, as you kind of zoom out, not just Flighty, but all of the information that you have, are airlines getting better or worse at running on time? Or is it just a constant change of sometimes it's better and sometimes it's worse?
It's a great question. It's one of those that there's 100 ways to measure it. So you pick your way to measure it, and I'll tell you if it's getting better or worse. What I believe is the ground truth, if you go look at all 100 and try to synthesize it, is that, and I know you're not going to like this, but they're getting better. They're slightly getting better. Now, granted, that's impressive because it's a huge system, but they are getting better at allocating the planes, building in the correct amount of buffer into the flights. It's not, I haven't looked at the exact numbers in like 6 months, but it's something along the lines of like 20% of flights have some sort of impact or inconvenience. And from year to year, it'll change to like 19.5%, and then it'll go back to 20.1 and 19.6. So if you look over 10 years, it's getting better from 20% to 19%, but it is getting better. I know it feels like, I think what's happening is users have so much more information now. Like 5-10 years ago, first of all, it probably wasn't being gathered, and we had no way to proof check it. Now we can look up more than they can in most cases. Like we know certain airlines, I won't say who, but certain airlines that use Flighty in like the ops center because we're faster and more accurate than their own stuff. So a lot of times users have more accurate, faster stuff than the airlines. So I think it's just because we have total clarity now. And if crazy stuff happens, people hear about it. Like a 39-hour delay in the past, nobody would be like, I'm not telling anybody that happened. Just the 300 people on the plane know. But now you know all these insane things that happen.
Yeah. I hope Tammy from Tallahassee isn't sitting at the airport in the 5th hour of her delay right now hearing you say that, Ryan, and really slam in the face of her phone because she hears that. But I think you're right. I mean, and you're right because of all the same reasons. Like they're just building in better buffers, and they're expanding boarding times and things like that. And obviously, like Delta is pretty egregious for making their flight times way longer than they need to, just to make sure they're a little more reliable. But yeah, it's that's all very interesting data too to synthesize and understand. I have a question for you. Just of the features of Flighty, they're the ones that we know and love. What are some kind of underrated aspects of your product, your app, that people don't maybe talk about enough or use enough?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's funny because it's funny that it's hard to think of them now, because normally when I talk about the app to people, I just start with the like esoteric stuff, and they're like, yeah, but does it tell me the delays faster? And you're like, yes, oh yeah, it does do that. One I love, we tell you, so the FAA, speaking of this air traffic control stuff, they have their own internal words for the probability of ground stops and ground delays to get extended. And it is possible means 30%. Probable means 60%. Oh no, I can't remember the 90% word. And there's a word for 90% that's something like almost certainly. And we read that and decode it, and then in your ground stop we'll say, whatever, your plane's delayed for an hour, and there's a small chance, parentheses 30% chance that it'll get extended. And I think that 30 and the 90, that really does, because not that many people see it. So like you guys may not have ever even run across this, because there's not that many flights that this stuff happens to. But I think that 30 or 60 or 90% is really helpful in determining what is actually the problem that's going on. And we want to go further with that, but that's a cool one that took us a long time to do, and is probably not seen a ton. What are some of the others? I'm giving away some of the secret sauce here, but in the Where's My Plane, we have a summary at the top. That's the old version of Where's My Plane. Probably the original one we launched was 2 or 3 years ago, was just here's the stops before you. and are those planes on time or late? And you kind of had to do a little thinking yourself for, okay, if it's 2 hours late from Tallahassee, and then I have a turnaround time of, there's a 45 minutes, and do the math, yada, yada. Like, is it actually going to make me late? And sometimes the 2 hours doesn't matter at all because it's overnight, or the time on the ground is 6 hours. So showing that the flight before you is late may not actually make your flight late. Sometimes it will, and sometimes it won't. And we had to make all these different scenarios for, what do we tell you at the top of that where's my plane section for, as just a high level example. Sometimes it says your plane is running late, but it's okay, there's enough time. And sometimes it says your plane is running late and it's going to make you more late than you already are. And sometimes it says your plane is running late, but your flight is already delayed. There's enough time in the amount that it's already delayed for you to not be delayed further. So there's all these crazy scenarios we had to handle that when you're a user and you're just using it, you're like, oh, of course that's what it says. But it took forever to do all that.
That's pretty amazing that it works like that. I spend the day I fly, especially, I spend so much time on that little page showing me where my plane is and how the delays are stacking up and things like that. And just what it means for your flight is, it's everything. It's like the main cause of all delays, right? It's just what's happened to the plane in front of you. But that's a really good one.
So everything that we're talking about, and I think why Flighty cuts through and is so relevant to us and the growing number of people out there, is that information is power. Flighty is delivering information that the airlines either can't or don't want to. And that allows you to, say, stay on the beach in Fort Lauderdale for another 4 hours, or rebook a flight before anybody else at the gate realizes that it's about to get canceled. The dark side of this, and I know that this is something you've worked on, Ryan, is sometimes it's too much information. So the perfect example of this is, you get a push notification that your flight has been delayed by 90 minutes or whatever. And in the interim, Delta or American has a spare on site, and they switch the tail number, and all of a sudden the flight is back on time. So how do you thread the needle between giving people enough information, but perhaps not too much?
It's a great question. This was, if not my top concern, maybe my number 2 concern coming into making the app 6 years ago, was if we do all this, let's say we go do all this work to try to be the fastest and the best about saying when stuff is delayed. But if that happens enough times, it doesn't really matter. Like, you can't react to the delay. You just kind of have to sit there and wait and see if it gets undelayed. I don't know if it's better or worse, depending on your point of view, but from our point of view, it's better. They do not undelay very often at all. It is, I would have to go run real numbers. I'd have to see, but it's easily less than 0.1%. Like, it is very rare. And when you think about it from their point of view, it makes sense. All the stuff I was saying earlier of, we tell you something as fast as we possibly can. They'd rather tell you as late as they possibly can because they want you on the plane. They have to be more certain. They have to move crew and food and all that kind of stuff around gates. It works out to our advantage because the difference between as fast as you can and as slow as you can is 99.9% the same. But to answer your question, what do we do is we make sure that when the undelays happen, we tell you the same as always, as fast as we possibly can. The good news is there's some indicators. Like you said, the tail number changing is a good one. So a lot of times they will, let's say you're 90 minutes delayed, they'll change the tail and they won't yet update. It'll take them 5 or 10 minutes to say, oh, you're back on time. But we send you the change in tail number notification immediately. So you know something already is going on. The other thing is, it happens so rarely that I don't think they have great protocols for telling you when it's undelayed. Like, they're not great at sending emails, updating the gate, sending push notifications in their app. So in terms of one of the benefits of Flighty is adjusting flights before other people adjust flights. Like you can get on the next flight when there's only 2 seats left. Even though that undelay is happening to everyone, you're still knowing in advance of everyone that the undelay has happened. This literally just happened like 2 days ago to my mother-in-law. One of the rare scenarios. She's a good test case because all the bad things happened to her. They got delayed. It was a 7-hour flight or a 7 a.m. flight. And at 5 a.m., they got delayed 7 hours, which is like, how does that happen? And then, so she starts calling me and I'm helping her undo all this and get on the next flight. And then they get a new plane. They get a new tail number, but this is like 60 or 90 minutes into it, which is weird. They get a new tail number and it gets undone. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine. Go back to the gate, get a coffee, whatever, sit down. And she's at the gate where everybody else is still panicking and trying to like get in line and calling them. She's texting me. She's like, are you sure? Like, yeah, I could, like, they're moving the plane and they're bringing another one over. But it is one of those things where it's a good question. I did not know this is how it was going to turn out either. But it turns out that just being as accurate and as fast as you can solves for the vast majority of it. And I believe I'm aware of 2 cases in our 5-year history where it cost someone their flight, basically. They thought it was undelayed, and so they never left home, and they thought it was delayed and it got undelayed. Or they thought it was undelayed and they thought it was delayed and they left the airport and went into Manhattan and couldn't make it back in time. So like we tell them it gets undelayed, but they were just so certain that it was going to stay there that they weren't able to make it back in time. So whatever that is, 2 out of, I don't know, 5 million.
Okay, I just wanted to touch on a few of my favorite underrated Flighty features. The tail number tracking, like you mentioned, is really cool. I especially love the feature that shows you if you've been on that exact plane before and when. That is especially nerdy, not super helpful, but very cool. I love to see that every single time. Something that I do find really useful is you can, when you have Flighty Pro, you can get an aircraft swap push alert. So when your aircraft type has changed at all, they'll send you a push alert, even if it's just a 737-800 to a 737-800 or 900 ER, right? There are a few extra seats on that plane. As soon as I get that push alert, I go into my seat map and I move up into a better seat. Like, it's so simple to do that. I love that part as well. And then finally, the lock screen widget with a countdown to my next flight. I keep that up all the time. I mean, I always have that widget on there because I love to see, how many days. I think I'm like 50 days from my next flight. So I'm going to be staring at that for a while. But I love all those features. Those are some of my favorite underutilized, or I guess underrated features of Flighty Pro.
You made me think of one that is so small that I would have forgotten about it. Something like 8% of tails, the plane has a name. Like we know JetBlue puts blue in all the names of their flights. Lufthansa names all theirs. One week I spent way too much time finding all the names, putting all the names in the database. So in your Where's My Plane, if your tail number has a name, it'll show the name of the actual plane, which is very cool.
That's very cool too. Also very nerdy. Been a very nerdy episode of the show. All right, I got a few more questions. For road warriors or frequent flyers, I think Flighty is a no-brainer. It's a must-have, in my opinion. For travelers who are maybe 1 to 2 to 3 vacations per year, Ryan, what's your pitch for paying for Flighty Pro?
Yeah, good question. So a little bit of background is when we launched, we had a monthly plan along with the yearly plan. So the road warriors can pay $60 a year and get unlimited everything. And people who had less travel could pay for a month. The reason we did that is because the amount that I have to charge for a day or a week or a month is, let's just say, about the same. It's slightly different, but like, because of the way the economics work, I would have to charge whatever, let's say $5 for a week or $7 for a month. So they're pretty close. So we were like, all right, let's just give everybody a month. That way, if stuff moves, and we'll try to get our price down over time. But if the flight moves, or then they can get more flights within the time period. And people did not like it. They did not understand it. They were like, you're charging me for a month and I only want it for like 4 days. So we probably 2 years ago at this point switched to a week, and it's about the same amount of money as a month, but people like it way more. because they know that it feels like that fits with their mental model of like, I'm taking a trip for a weekend or a week. That's kind of the usual duration. And I can pay $5 and I'm covered. To answer your actual question, it's one of those, this is why we give the first flight away for free. And you don't even have to sign up for a trial or put in your credit card or anything. But it is one of those, the amount of stress that it relieves just by knowing that kind of someone has your back and is watching 100% of the time, all the time for you. And it'll just send you an alert. So you don't have to open the website over and over or go into Google and type your flight number repeatedly. That's a huge amount of stress relief. And then when stuff starts going wrong, to know some of the background behind it and that someone is looking into how much it may propagate or keep going on. And then, we have our button where you can just press and see alternatives. But it's more or less, I think it's one of those things that once you experience it, you're like, oh man, I didn't think that having more information about what's going on with my flight would be that big of a stress reliever, because I can't really do anything about it. But it is. It's a huge stress reliever. And I try to describe it to people. The best way is, let's say you're spending $2,000 for your weekend trip. I don't know, flights, airlines, hotels, whatever. First of all, $5 is nothing in that world. But it's actually not so much that. It's more about when you're taking your trip, you kind of don't relax and enjoy the vacation until you arrive at the airport or land in Cancun or whatever. And I've heard from people that the amount that they're able to just relax and be like, I know that I'll get there and I know that I'll have as much information as I can. They feel like they can start relaxing before the flight, have a beer, have a drink, or just like not be in that super stressed up, like what's going to happen, where's the problem going to come from, which angle is it going to come from, knowing that you'll know as soon as it's possible that that's happening, kind of allows people to relax a little bit before their vacation and not kind of spend the last day of their vacation worrying about, oh my gosh, like what time was the airport going to be bad? Like, are we going to be on time? All that stuff. So I think it's that, hey, it's $5 for cover the trip in terms of if something goes wrong, we're covered, that's the kind of biggest case, because then you can move and adjust and actually get home or actually get to your vacation on time. But even if that doesn't happen, it helps you just kind of extend your vacation in a way.
All right, I think I get the last question here. You've talked a lot. We talked a lot with you about just how much work you've put into the new Apple product launch and all the new features. And as we were doing that, I could basically hear Android users outside saying, when do we get a Flighty app? So the question is, and I know this is something you've talked about before, when can or if Android users expect Android or Flighty for Android?
I'll give you my PR answer, which is a lot of Android users have iPads. And Flighty works great on an iPad. So it works great. It works great on an iPad and a Mac. I don't know the answer, to be honest. It's every 6 months or every year I look into it deeply, and it seems like it doesn't make any more sense anytime I look into it. I know that's brutal to hear for Android folks. Honestly, they probably have their best shot ever at the moment because Apple is so far behind on AI and Siri and Apple Intelligence. Maybe those things will pull more users over to Android. And well, I know there's a lot of users on Android. Pull more users that pay premium prices for apps over to Android, and then we'll kind of have a bigger audience to serve there. But the cold, unfortunate truth for those users is there's still more people on iOS that we haven't reached and that are willing to pay more premium prices than are on Android that we haven't reached that are willing to pay premium prices. We would probably have to decide, do we want to keep the business model we have now and just serve less people on Android? Or do we want to make a totally different, like right now we don't have any ads even in the free version. Do we want to try to figure that out so that the right amount of people can make it a good business decision for us to work on Android? But the truth right now is, I don't know. it's something we paid close attention to. It's obviously one of our top requested features. But when we look across all the things that we could do, it's a kind of a business decision. We can spend 6 to 12 months making an Android app that then has a lot of implications for us to support to the quality that we would want to support it forever. And that would make this many more users happy, that add this many more users. Or we can work on the airport thing I was talking about earlier, or making our data better for the iOS users. And it's better for the users we have and for the users we don't have still to continue to work on iOS and iPad. And that's just the truth, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, good answer. Let's help out a listener. Okay, we have a question from Keegan from Massachusetts who asks, when it comes to airline websites and apps, some are beautiful and some feel like they're stuck in 2005. My question is, what are your favorite apps and sites, and which ones are the clunkiest? Ryan, I'll let you start because you are the designer here, the only one with a keen eye.
I don't know about that. I really want to hear y'all's answer too. Airlines, United has done a very good job lately. I don't know about the looks great part of it, but they've started adding a lot of functionality. And they're moving at a pretty good pace. Schiphol has an amazing app that I'm sure no one that doesn't live in the Netherlands is familiar with, but they have a really good app. We look at it from time to time. We talk to them. They talk to us like, hey, what are you guys working on? Go check it out. It's very cool. The two kind of answers that I use the most, I use a service called flightconnections.com. You guys familiar with that? So it's for the listeners, it's, hey, I want to go from Austin to Rome. What are the different ways I can get there? And it'll plot. I think there's like 4 with one stop at least. Here's the 4 different ways you can go. What are the airlines? What are the plane types? Or I want to go, I'm trying to get I'm in Rome and something's going wrong. I need to get home, or I need to get back to the United States. Like, what are all the flights that go to the US? So you can just put in any destination or any origin, and it'll show all the flights out from the origin and all the flights in from the destination. Or if you put in both, then it mixes them and shows you the different routes you can take to get there. It's one of those things that when my co-founder showed it to me, I was like, that's pretty nerdy. I don't know about that. And then now that it exists, it's crazy how many use cases I find for it. It's fun. And then the second one is Aerolopa, which is terrible to say out loud and to spell. Good luck Googling it, but it's a crazy detailed seat map website made by a very cool guy in Britain who just addicted to seat maps. It's got seat 6A on Lufthansa's A380. Like, if you look really close at the map, you'll see that the window looks off, and that's because the window A is actually off. And if you sit in that seat, you won't get to see you won't have a window. Or like the armrest in the first row of Delta's new Delta One on the A350 is a little bit wider in the first row, and it's actually a little bit wider on the first row. So it's crazy. It's insanely detailed.
Yeah, Aerolopa is a great call there. I love that site. We spend a lot of time on there vetting, for Thrift Traveler Premium, vetting what seats are actually going to look like and recommending people what seats they should choose. I always say, before you get onto an airline seat map, which could be, wildly off or misleading, go check out Aerolopa to make sure that you're not, sitting face to face with the flight attendant or something like that.
The number of times when I've heard from people who selected what they thought was a bulkhead seat that would have extra legroom, and they're like, this is a bulkhead seat, right? And I go look at Aerolopa, it's like, nope, it's jammed right up into Delta Comfort Plus. You are out of luck, my friend. Which, Aerolopa solves that pain point. It's great that Aerolopa is out there because, number one on my shit list is Seat Guru. And the fact that TripAdvisor purchased Seat Guru only to sunset it like 1 year later and stop updating those seat maps, so everything is now out of date and basically unreliable, is unacceptable for what could be one of the most consumer travel friendly websites out there.
Any for you, Kyle? Good, bad designs out there?
No, I'm still just mad about Sea Guru, so I'll leave it there.
Just mad about Sea Guru now that he brought it up.
Yeah, that's all I can think about.
I have that makes me think of a question though. That makes me think of a question. Do you guys know what happened with Lounge Buddy? Like, why? That seems like a great app and service. How did that get sunset by Amex? Do you have any idea?
I think it's the exact same thing where they made a business decision to make an acquisition in order to take some of it and fold it into, Amex has its global lounge collection. And I'm assuming that they took some of the functionality or just the bones of it and then just shut it down.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, great answers. If you want us to answer your question, email us at podcast@thriftytraveler.com, and your question might be featured in next week's show. All right. To close the show, as we do every week, we're doing On the Spot. And Kyle's got something for Ryan and I. What do you got?
All right. We've been talking a lot about how Flighty can help you avoid the pain of delays and cancellations, but sometimes it's your fault. So tell me, have you ever missed a flight because of a mistake that you made? And if so, why? Gunnar, why don't you go first?
Okay. I have missed one flight ever. It was the morning after my grandpa's funeral, which was actually like a super joyous, like amazing experience. My whole family got together, and as we do, we got after it really good. And I stayed up way too late, getting bombed with all my aunts and uncles and cousins. And I woke up the next morning about 45 minutes after my flight departed O'Hare back for Minneapolis. They just rebooked me onto the next one. So it was pretty low consequence missing of a flight, but it was entirely my fault. Just got after it too good the night before. It happens,
Happens to the best of us. Ryan, you're on deck.
I have missed two in my life. One is boring, and the other is, of course, not my fault. It's the fault of the infamous I-70 in Colorado that is absolutely vicious to get out of. That stupid tunnel got blocked, and all hopes and dreams were dashed. I left like 5 hours before the flight because I knew it, and it didn't matter. It's just, you're stuck and it's just over. So I got stuck in Denver. Denver is I guess some people like Denver. I hate that airport, and that's one of the reasons. I have nothing good to say about Denver, and I-70 is part of it. So I had to sit in that place that I hate for 16 hours.
You're preaching to the choir. That's a terrible airport.
Yeah, agreed on all counts. I-70 is a hellscape. And then, once you get to the city of Denver, you're, 45 minutes away from actually getting to the airport. And if you have a rental car, you're 3 hours away from getting to the terminal. And just nothing clean and easy about that decrepit space.
Can I tell you guys something?
You've never missed a flight.
Missed a flight.
Oh,
never missed a flight.
Well
Suck
done.
it.
Wow.
I'm
pretty
traveling
good.
in like 4 days. I'm sure
Yeah,
I'm gonna miss
look-
something now just because
what
I
you've
had the
done.
call to say that.
I actually can't believe that. I know you're the king of booking positioning flights into Miami with like a 45-minute layover, no protection, and you've still never missed one? God,
Not a one. All good.
you must be an incredible speed walker. All right, that's all I have today. Ryan, I want to thank you so much for your time and for letting us gush about your product that it sounds like you're continuing to make even better. So it gets our highest recommendation of all the travel apps out there. This is not a sponsored podcast. I swear to God, this is just something that we've always wanted to do because Kyle and I are obsessed with your app. So thank you for creating it, and thanks for coming on with us.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot. I appreciate all the support and feedback that you guys give. I know a lot of times you'll send us stuff that, hey, you can make this better if you thought about this idea. So super appreciate it and appreciate what you guys are doing.
Of course. All right. Thank you all so much for listening to the Thrifty Traveler podcast. Please rate us 5 stars on your platform of choice and like and subscribe to Thrifty Traveler on YouTube, where this week you're going to get a sneak peek at some of the new iOS updates from Flighty. Send this episode to someone you know who needs to download this app. If you have feedback for us, send me a note at podcast@thriftytraveler.com. We'd love to hear from you over there. Kyle, tell us more about the Thrifty Traveler podcast team.
This episode was produced by your favorite host who needs to stop getting after it the night before a flight, Gunnar Olson. It was edited by David Strutt, and our theme music is by Benjamin Tissot. Ryan, thanks so much. Gunnar, see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.